I'm going to refresh this. Hold on. Looks like it says something went wrong, but it looks like it's okay. Do you think it's okay?
You're
Let's
asking
see
the wrong
here.
person.
I know.
Everything looks fine on my side, as I
Yeah,
would
it's good.
normally
I'm going to go.
expect it to be.
Corey, hopefully this is working. If not, cut the beginning stuff out. Thank you very much. Okay. Welcome to the Energetics Podcast. I am your host, Kara Bunde-Dunn, and today I'm joined by Joshua Berry. He's the author of a book called Dare to be Naive, the founder and CEO of a company called Econic, and a leader who challenges conventional business thinking by embracing curiosity and trust in humanity. He is a highly sought after speaker and recently gave a TEDx talk called Your Words Fuel AI and Our Future. We're going to dive into topics like leadership, his 10-day silent retreat, the power of questioning our beliefs, and how seeing the good in people can create real change. Joshua, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here, Kara.
Yeah, and it's so fun because we've known each other for many, many years, and you were an amazing colleague. I've gotten to see you in action, and you are so dynamic, and it's awesome. I can also call you a friend. So I'm
Yes,
happy you're here.
I love it too. As I reflect back on it, it's probably been close to 2 decades. And yeah,
I
we've seen
know.
each other in a lot of different ways. And so,
Yes.
yeah, excited again to be here on the podcast.
We've kind of grown up together.
Still not fully grown yet, but
Yeah,
definitely
never.
getting there. Yeah.
Totally, never be fully. Okay, I want to start because I think this is such a cool thing about you. And I don't know if that many people that know you know that you did this, but a while ago you did a 10-day silent retreat. I think you were in the Southwest somewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, I went down to Texas.
To
Yep.
Texas. Okay. Can you tell me about that? Like what made you want to do it? What were you hoping to learn about yourself in that process? Look, what made you say like, yep, I'm going to go sit in silence for 10 days?
So the idea of attending this retreat, which these retreats are held throughout the world, they're connected to dhamma.org, and we can include that in show notes and whatnot. But it taught a specific style of meditation called Vipassana. And the reason why it was interesting to me, I have no idea. But at
Yeah.
least a couple of years prior to this, so this would have been pre-COVID, maybe in 2019, I had heard about the idea from a friend and thought that it sounded like a really interesting approach. I also think there's a part of me that always hears people talk about something like, oh, meditation or using the Waking Up app or Calm or others. And then this voice inside of me says, oh, no, there's probably an even more extreme or more ideal version of that.
How can
And
I
so
maximize this?
the maximize thing. So when I saw a 10-day silent retreat of meditation, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one for me. And so I ended up doing it in 2021. And it was down in Texas right after they started opening up these retreats again
Yeah.
from COVID lockdown. So there were still a lot of precautions that were in place. For instance, I ended up driving down from Nebraska down to Texas because otherwise they would have required like a 7-day quarantine.
Oh, and you're like, Trisha, my wife may not like 17 days gone. That
Exactly.
might be 7 too many.
Yeah. So it ended up being 11 or 12. I don't remember again because of the drive down and back.
Yeah.
Each took a day.
So when I studied abroad in India in college back in the many moons ago, I won't say when, many, many years ago. And one of the things that we did was we spent about 7 days in a Buddhist monastery, and we didn't have full silence, but we were silent from sun up to sundown, hanging out in the monastery, like just sitting on a pillow. And you know me, I love to just talk to any stranger anywhere, ever. And that I found to be one of the hardest things I've maybe still ever done in my life, is to just sit with your thoughts. And I found, because I'm not somebody that necessarily just like sits in silence and meditates. And I hear it from people a lot. They're like, when I sit in silence, like I just keep thinking about how I'm supposed to be thinking about not thinking about things. And it's like, I can't do it. I don't know what to do. So I'm so curious, like, what did you learn about yourself? 10 days, just you hanging out.
So yes, it was 10 days, just me. It was in a hall or class setting, so there was some instruction, but the style of meditation was one that was just focused on inner seeing of patterns. And so it was
Mm,
not guided meditations.
right.
It wasn't
Same.
anything. And so it was, yeah, but 10 hours of pillow sitting with sometimes being able to get up and move around. What did I learn about myself? It was one of the most psychologically demanding things that I
Hmm.
think I had done. You know, the bell rung at 4 a.m. and you were on your cushion by 4:30 a.m. And definitely there were people around you, but you wouldn't acknowledge other people or make any motion or eye contact was the
Yeah.
intent. So what I learned about myself is, one, I can do hard things. Two, doing so much body scanning, probably a good, close to 100 hours of just like
Yeah.
focusing on breath and focusing on sensations. Uh, there were things that emerged that I thought, where did that come from? I'll
Yeah.
give you one small example. Uh, Seventh or eighth day, a memory came back to me of a time when I was in fourth grade and went down to go visit an old best friend, and they were playing basketball, and I didn't know how to play basketball, and I was left out and over on the
Mm,
side. There was no reason why that sort of memory should have come back. And now that's reminded me, there was another one that came back of my 16th birthday party. And what the image that came back to me was the fact that my parents threw a surprise birthday party for me. And so they were filming all of my friends as they were showing up. And there was this image of this friend named Kurt, who they open the door and they're like, "Hey, it's Josh's birthday party. Like, aren't you
yeah.
excited?" And he's like, "Yeah, And he went in. And what popped into my mind, whatever that was, 30, 35 years later, was uh, it was Kurt's birthday the day before, and we never
Mm,
honored his 16th birthday. Like, why do traumas
mm,
or energy or things like that get stuck
yeah.
inside of you to come out? My math is wrong. So 25 years later.
Yeah.
But like it was fascinating.
It does. I've done a lot of like NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and having people take me through things and guided meditations. And then what's the next memory and the next memory and the next memory? And you're getting back to some of your origin stories. And
Mhm.
sometimes I've found things, people can have things that even happen in the womb, when they're bringing themselves back to those moments that then carry through them. So
Mhm.
it doesn't surprise me at all that the longer that you sat in the silence, the more that you gave space to
Mhm.
allow things to come forward that maybe weren't quite healed yet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
a good way to say it. I also say there was another lesson. It was all related to it, but it wasn't directly related to what I was learning sitting on the pillow. It was more physically what I learned. And so I've had issues with blood clots over the years in my legs. And after about the second or third day, I felt like my legs sitting on a pillow for 10 hours a day, like
Yeah.
I was really struggling. So that combined with some of the psychological things you start to experience, I perceived that I was probably going to die during this retreat.
Did you really think that?
Oh, 100%. I wrote, so you weren't supposed to have a journal or any writing utensils for this 10-day retreat, which
Who
is
knew you could
interesting
break
too.
rules, Joshua? Love
I
it.
know. But I had taken a greeting card that to remind myself of Trisha and everything. And I got out a pen and I wrote some words to her with the possibility that I was like, I may not wake up tomorrow.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Scary.
and so
Yeah.
a learning that I had to do was, there was also in that moment an idea of advocacy, and sometimes I don't always speak up for myself.
Mm.
And so I ended up, when I woke up the next day, going to one of the organizers and writing a note, because we weren't speaking, to say, like, I need a different configuration for how I can do the rest of this retreat. And so I got to sit in a chair like the people who are 50 years older than me, so
Yeah.
that I didn't have to cross my legs the entire
But what
time.
a profound lesson for you that I imagine has carried through with you. Like, it is okay to ask for help, and it is
Yes.
okay to accept help and to accept that we don't always have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most profound things I have learned from going from the corporate world to being an entrepreneur, and especially a spiritual entrepreneur. It's it is such a profound thing to learn, that it's okay. You don't have to, you can get out of your ego, and it's okay to accept help,
Yeah,
and that's a powerful skill to learn.
I think so too. And it's someone who so prone to want to help and serve others
Yes.
and all the time. But then when people say, "How can I help you?" and you're like, I don't know, I think
No,
I'm good. I think I'm
no.
good. Right? I'm
Yeah.
good.
One of the things I learned, this is a little tangent, but when wanting to receive abundance, and not just financial abundance, but abundance in any kind, to live out all of your dreams and desires and everything that's in your heart, the more that you reject little things, the more that the universe like prevents you from getting your big things too. Because it's like, if you
Interesting.
can't accept the littlest of things, then how
Hmm.
could you accept the biggest dreams of your heart? And so for me, it's been a practice of saying, like when somebody wants to buy me a coffee, my first instinct, because I am also a giver and I love to help other people, my first instinct is like, oh, no, 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 let me get you a coffee. No, 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 I'll get it. Let me
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Like, no, 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 it's my turn. And so I have learned how to just say things like, oh my gosh, thank you. That is so nice.
That is a great lesson.
I'd be happy to get you one next time. And so I really am practicing the phrase, thank you, I received that. Like my aunt offered her condo for, I did a week long CEO retreat in January, and she offered her
Mhm.
condo in the Gulf Shores. And she said, just pay the cleaning fee. Nobody's going to be there. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, you don't have to do that. And I stopped myself and I was like, I just want to say, thank you. If you genuinely want to give that to me, like I will receive that and I will pay it forward. And that's super kind of you. Thank you. And I said, I'm working on and practicing accepting when people are generous with me. And she goes, that's really funny you say that, because I'm also working on that. And we had this really deep chat about accepting help or receiving gifts, and I
Ooh,
was deeply raised by a giver, not a receiver. So it's like ingrained in my ancestry to be that way.
yeah, yeah. What a great lesson. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm going to take that away from our conversation today too, Kara. Thank you.
Love it. So I just thought it was interesting, that was something that dropped in for you in your
Mhm.
retreat. Like, oh, I have to advocate for myself for
Yes.
me to be okay. I need to. This is a lesson for me, and it's okay for me to do that. Even if it
Absolutely.
maybe felt a little icky in your nervous system, you still did it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Awesome.
yep.
I want to ask you, have there been moments where logic or maybe the pressures of the world told you one thing, but your gut said, therefore I go over here instead, where your gut told you, even if other people think this is a wild or crazy idea or whatever it might be, I just have a knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do or where I'm supposed to go. Do you have moments like that have happened for you, even if it maybe defied logic?
Yeah. So there are times, I mean, we can go to writing the book where um, the book title is called Dare to Be Naive.
Yeah.
And there was quite a bit of pushback on that. Like, no, nobody's going to Amazon to look for, like, help me figure out how to be more naive.
Correct.
And so in terms of search engine optimization, not the best book title. And yet there was something that kept coming back to me about that idea and the fear that people have around that idea, that in almost all of the book titles that I worked with had some version of naivete or naive or something that was a part of it. And so
Yeah.
logically, what the world was saying of you need to build out the book in this way, that was saying to go in a different direction. Similar, like a sub part of that is I was receiving a lot of guidance that all of the chapters in the book should lead to workshops or worksheets, or like it
Mm,
was it was the productization of a book.
yeah.
And I said, I really, what I'm feeling called to is like to create a book that creates space for people to think and
Yeah.
to challenge some of their thoughts. And so I don't, I'm not going to write a book because it leads to other things that seem
Yeah.
good for me. I'd like to create an experience for someone when they experience my book, that it helps them think differently, or take a step back
Hmm.
and shift. And so that was another one too, where it just felt like the right thing to do, even
Yeah.
though a lot of the best practices that were out there were saying to run in a different direction.
Yeah. A lot of writers, authors, artists are that way. They're like, they advocate for it, and it ends up being the thing that is the most meaningful. by advocating for the thing that's so personal to them in that way.
Yeah.
So
And
I want to talk. Oh, go ahead. What were you
no,
going
I
to
was
say?
just going to say, you use the word meaningful. I think it's starting to clarify what is meaningful for you in that, because they had a different definition for what was meaningful for
Yeah,
them in terms of what the
that's
end
right.
results would be.
Or
And I
what
even in
success
the
means.
yeah, and even in that book process, I had to revise several times, like what exactly is inspiring here, this work, and those definitions of then what makes it meaningful started to shift.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk. I'll switch over to talk about the book a little bit. So
Okay.
you explore 4 questions in the book. Where did you learn that? Is it true? What did you gain? And what did you lose? And in those questions, it reminded me of a quote from Buddha. And I don't know if this was just coincidence, which is what I'm curious about. So the quote says, if you propose to speak, always ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So I think they both of the 4 questions of your book and this quote from Buddha, they have this like reflection component into before speaking. There's this idea of like, can I reflect and can I dig into this a little bit before I go full force out into the world with this topic? Was that just random coincidence, or how did the themes of the book come out?
Sure. So the book Dare to Be Naive: How to Find Your True Self in a Noisy World came out of the idea that a lot of people believe that being naive is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I uncovered through my research and interviews was that the fear of being seen as naive actually prevents people from greater joy and
Yeah.
more success, at least in things that are more authentic to who they are. And what was interesting was a lot of people use this phrase, like, this might sound naive, but, and then they
Mm-hmm.
shared something that felt more authentic to them, but felt contrary to maybe what they were hearing in the world. And
Yeah.
so the book was a response to that, to say, like, how can I help people lean more into this idea that being naive is an okay thing,
Yeah.
especially when we understand that the word naive means authentic.
Yeah.
It has a pejorative sense now, but it used to just mean authentic and natural and innate. And so, tying it all back to the quote with Buddha, and those questions, which were inspired by some of the work by Byron Katie, is that we do need to pause to be able to understand what is authentic and what is trying to come out through me.
Yeah.
It's a call for more intentionality for
Mm-hmm.
the way that we speak or the actions that we take. And so the book itself unpacks some of that idea, but then it just provides a bunch of more progressive business ideas that kind of
Yeah.
poke at the heart and the soul and the head. And then it doesn't say, like, and now go do those things. It just says, like, hey, what do you believe? And
Yeah.
to your point, like, where'd you learn the thing you believed, and is it true? And can you see that there are things you gain and that you lose by holding that belief?
Can you give an example of that so that that can be relevant for people? Like even just a simple example?
Yep. One of the examples, so a lot of the work that we do is helping businesses grow, but what's more important to me, at least, is that we're helping the people within businesses grow.
Yeah.
And so one of the chapters explored several success studies where companies valued employee growth and development even more than the business growth or development. And so what it did is it called out that idea of saying, like, yes, they're both important, but if employee growth, even over business growth, was something you would consider, what might you be capable of? What might be possible there? And so helping people unpack, like, what is it that maybe really fueled their belief that they had that, no, actually, company growth is more important than employee growth. Is important. And there's a specific case study that I use in there of this manager who had had one of the people on his team come to him and was needing the next business challenge and thing that he wanted to learn. And the place to learn it from was probably from the competitor down the street. And
Mm.
so he had this, like, dilemma of, do I send one of my star employees to go learn from a competitor, or do I try to keep him here and like hold tighter to to their growth and what they're needing. And he ultimately like shifted and said like, no, if this person can grow and learn something over there, then why wouldn't I want what was best for them? Uh, and so being able to take a step back and say, there's things that that gentleman, Michael's his name, would gain, and there's things he loses by holding that belief.
That's right.
But when we can take a step back and understand, the pivot point of Tao a little bit of like where this isn't just good or bad, but it can be good and bad if
Yeah.
you want to define it like that. Like it's more intentionality and I don't know, more as things are in my mind.
Yeah, I did. My guides gave me a meditation that I teach in my course, and it's around context shifting, and
Mm,
it's similar to this, right? And through the meditation, you're back to back with the person you're in conflict with, and then you walk around the circle, and then you allow yourself to float and see from above a different point of view
yeah.
through the meditation, and it's kind of similar. You're like, if I hold to this conflict or belief, and I see it in human relationships a lot,
Yeah.
where you're like, you just don't see her point of view and she just doesn't see yours. Like you guys just can't find your common ground. But it's like, what if you hold so tight to this and you choose not to try to understand a different perspective? There are things you're going to gain and things you're going to lose in that too. Like I think those questions work in lots of settings beyond just the
Mhm.
business setting too.
Absolutely. It reminds me a bit of a quote somebody shared with me yesterday. I'm going to butcher it. I don't remember who it's from. So, but
That's all right.
the sense
Get
of
the
it
meaning of
was,
it. That's right.
the sense of it was, people are rarely reacting to you. They're reacting to their projection of reality or the
That's
dream
right.
that they're in.
That's exactly right.
And so it creates a little bit of that detachment of it. And you also are reacting to your projection of what you believe to be true, which goes back to that concept of the best definition for beliefs that I've seen is that they're mental models. Like they're our best guess at how reality is working. And so if we can hold that, well, then they're not absolute truths. They're
Yeah,
just our
and they
beliefs.
change.
Mhm.
That's right.
And they can
Like
shift and change.
that's right. I can think of so many times that my belief about a topic or even what I believed was like quote unquote right or wrong changed
Yeah.
as more information came into my life or a new experience came into my life and changed the way I see a situation or topic. And I think that it's a interesting thing because people say, like, well, I believe this, so therefore, and they're so
Yeah.
firmly planted in a particular camp. And I think it's upon all of us to honor the voice within, but also be curious. I think it's especially now in the United States in particular. I think we're lacking some level of curiosity and understanding of somebody that may see the world differently than you, and that's hard to watch, to be honest.
Well said. Well said. The curiosity and the holding a little bit looser the idea that my way is the right way
Yeah,
is so important. And I actually think that that's some of the greatest work that we can do within business nowadays is to create more
yeah,
spaces for people to practice that curiosity and that empathy. We get called in often for programs and projects to try to help people be more adaptable. And
yeah,
one of the quotes that I share in those trainings is from the futurist Alvin Toffler. This is a futurist who predicted like the internet and chat rooms and work from home and consumerism decades ago, right?
and you're like, okay, somebody's
So
whispering in his ear.
he kind of knows. He kind of knows what he's up to. But the
Yeah,
quote that I share is, "The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write. It's those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn."
mm,
And that idea to be able to know that with everything that's going on around us, like it's going to be predicated on our ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Uh, that's in essence what a lot of times people are asking us to come in and
yeah,
do with their people. And that I think, as you were alluding to, we could use even more of in society, which is just more
yeah.
more opportunities to say like, maybe there's something I need to unlearn here and there might be a new way to relearn.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in so many businesses that have had giant rises and falls, and I've worked for one of them, not a giant company, but a company that had a rise and a
Hmm.
fall, and it is because of that. Like, if you can't decide, if you can't take in information and new information and say, is this still true for us? Is this still the right path for us? Is And you're not willing to adjust and change as new pieces of information or the business climate or whatever it might be, as long as that's changing, you have to change too. And as an entrepreneur, Lord Almighty, like even 18 months ago, what I thought I was doing isn't what I'm doing now.
Yeah, yeah,
So, that process of learning something and then unlearning that and relearning a new way, and just being open to allowing that. For me, being a highly intuitive person, I also think it leaves space for what intuitively might drop in for you. And we're
yeah.
not always ready. Like ourselves, our souls, we're not always ready for the new way of being. And sometimes the environment isn't ready, like the time isn't right, and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, so that's not going to drop in until the stars align, and then it'll drop in, and then what you do with it, that's your free will, that's your choice.
Yeah,
But I think of that when I think about when I get intuitive hits for something, like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to do. I know, I just know. And then I'm like, is it now? Is it later? Like I have a knowing, but I need to know, is it now, or is it later? And I ask myself that with the help of my guides a lot when things drop in. Because I always think it's now. They're like, "Oh, cool! Thank you for that book idea. Should I start writing it today?" Like,
is it,
no,
is it,
not
yeah.
yet.
But maybe full circle to the other outcomes of that 10-day retreat and just other meditation practices. Um, it's creating more distance between stimulus and response, right?
Yes,
Like our reaction
I
to
call it the
those things.
sacred pause.
There you go. I love it. I love it. So it's creating more space for that sacred pause. So there's more intentionality behind
Yeah.
it. And so the more we can keep developing practices, and there's lots of different practices and depends
Yes.
on your flavor of what you want to look at. But whatever allows you to create a little bit more of that pause to know now or later or ignore, or where is this coming from, or what
That's
voice
right.
is bringing this to me. Like I think creating a little bit more of that slowness and pause so that we
Yeah.
can be a bit more intentional, I think
Yeah.
is important. I'll admit though that I also still have that voice in my head of like, oh, and then you'll know the right thing to do. And that's
Yeah.
also a voice to keep unlearning in my
It
head, because
is.
just because I did pause or because I did take a little bit more time doesn't mean that it is the next right action for me to take. It may be the next action that I should take, but I have to unlearn a little bit of some of those, not
Yeah.
perfectionistic tendencies, but definitely need for approval and need to be seen as doing the right thing tendencies that may sometimes miscue me on different
Yeah.
things.
When you said right or wrong, I in particular have spent the last several years unlearning or giving myself perspective around that, like what is right and
Mm-hmm.
what is wrong, and allowing myself space to say, maybe it's, what is the most aligned action for me today, what is the most
Mm-hmm.
aligned thing I should do today, that's for my highest and best good and the highest and best good of all,
Mm-hmm.
versus like, this is the right choice and the wrong choice, and if I choose this, I'm screwed, like I can't ever go back. I don't think of life like that. I think of it like a giant decision logic tree. And if I go left, then a new set of choices
Yeah.
present themselves. And if I go right, then another new set of opportunities present themselves. And it's this give and take between, free will and our life's purpose and why we're here and what we're meant to do with our life. And I think it's kind of an ebb and flow, and that there isn't like, if you don't take this job, your life is over, you're never going to get on the right path again. I think people have this real polarity in their choices. Like, either I get it right or I get it wrong, and then there's no going back, Like, yes,
Yeah.
there's consequences, but new things will present themselves and new ways to learn that lesson will present itself, I think.
Yeah.
What do you
I
think of
think
that?
I agree with it. And I hear people sometimes talk about it as reversible versus more irreversible decisions, or one-way doors versus two-way doors, and that we often think things are more one-way doors when they're not. Like there
Yeah.
are quite a few things where, as you said, maybe there's another decision point beyond it, and so being able to just be more intentional about like what am I playing out as what I think the consequences are of this
Yes,
decision or where it's
exactly.
going, and if things didn't work the way that they should, how might I be able to make a different decision that starts
That's right.
to course correct or go back or whatever those things might be, because we do often not give ourselves enough space or grace to be able to say like
Yeah.
that didn't work, let's try something else.
What do I need to learn and where do I need to go next?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, and I, for me in particular, I'm asking myself those things a lot around like what is the next right, I say right action, but for me it means aligned. What's the next aligned action?
Yeah.
Where am I supposed to be going? And when I'm in fear, which is my ego trying to protect me, and I'm like debilitate, like, oh my God, I'm so in fear. I'm so scared. Like, what if it doesn't work? What if we fail? What if nobody signs up? What if this? What if that? And all of that is teaching me that like I have to disconnect from the outcome. I need to stay connected to my purpose and where my soul is leading me to go, and also not to like let that fear debilitate me, because
Hmm.
it can be. And I think that's a really common thing I hear from my clients all of the time. Like they get paralyzed by fear and so they
Yeah.
take no action. And
Hmm.
I think action gives clarity. So even if you take a step and you're like, "Ooh, that feels real bad. I think I should step over here instead." You're like, "Great, step over here instead." Like, but just standing paralyzed in fear isn't going to get you anywhere either, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. There's a model I share in the book, that's this loop of curiosity and action. And
Yes.
to your point, like if it's the smallest, tiniest bit of action that allows us to learn something.
Mhm.
And then that helps kick off the next loop back to curiosity of like, oh, that worked. Awesome. Or no, it didn't work. And you know what? It wasn't as scary as I thought.
Yeah.
And so the more we can get into those reps of curiosity and action, I do think that that helps start to get us out of that molasses, if you
Yeah,
will.
that stickiness.
Uh, there's a third element to that model, though, that is safety. And
That's
that
powerful.
looks like a whole bunch of different things. It could be
Yes.
the safety that is provided to us. It's the safety that we create within ourselves. It's the reframing things to see that we are safer than we probably actually are in that decision. It's the right sizing of the action to make it feel safer. There's all of these things that are at play. But when you start to break it down to a couple of those variables, I find it starts to help people get more unstuck.
Do you find that when you're consulting with companies, like that bubbles to the surface? Like people want to be authentic and want to share bold ideas, but they don't feel safe to do so. Like they feel that there's a consequence in the air, or a possibility of that
Yeah,
consequences that might cost them their job or promotions or whatever it might be.
I think so. I do think so because, and it's across the spectrum of companies that are run more on processes and systems all the way
Yeah.
to relationships, right?
Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
fear when it's run by process and system because it could be different, or the system or the organism will like reject things that are different if it's been
Yeah.
designed in a way to try to continue to create itself. So bringing up and saying, "Oh, we used to do accounting this way. What if we tried this thing, or what if we measured this thing differently?" Like systems kind of reject it. And then on the relationship side of
Hmm.
things, uh, being able to share an idea out there that maybe starts to question, like, am I okay? Are you okay? Am I making a difference here? What happens if this isn't okay?
Yeah.
It brings all of those questions into light. And so you do have a lot of people who will just hold back their ideas or their feelings or the things that they want to share because it's safer
Right.
to not act or to not share than it is to maybe put something else out there.
So I really want your insight on this. Like the last job that I had, I was a corporate executive for a tech company, and my mediumship abilities awakened while I was working there. And
Yeah.
it's the owners are very conservative. They would think what I do is not the work of God, all those kinds of things. So I kept so much of myself, my personal self, away from there because I did not feel safe to like fully express who I was. And I think a lot of people are like that. Like they live a dual life. They're like, this is me, and then this is the work me. Because,
Yeah.
like, one, I don't want to be hurt. 2, I'm not sure that you guys, I trust you all for me to be that vulnerable. And 3, I don't want to lose my job. If I think differently than my boss and they say, you know what, you're not a culture fit here. See you later.
Yeah.
What would you advise? What about the person? So the person that's sitting in that seat going, I don't feel safe to be myself in my family, in my work, in my job. Like I just hide so much of who I am because I don't want people to judge me, or I don't want to be misunderstood, or whatever that might be. Like where would you tell someone to start if that's where they're feeling? Because I
Yeah.
know a lot of people that feel that way. No pressure to drop
Yep.
in some serious wisdom here, Joshua.
No. So the one of the first things is um, that the resistance that shows up when you start to get closer to you expressing that which you are made to do
Mm.
is very powerful.
Yeah.
And
Whew.
resistance
True.
could look like you're going to get fired if you do that here. You're going to lose friends if you say these things. Any of those sorts of pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like that might be true.
Yeah. Well, it was for me in both cases. I
In
lost
both
my job,
cases.
but I lost a lot of friends, but I've never been happier.
See, and so that's the thing. Like the resistance, and I'm stealing a little bit of that concept from Stephen Pressfield. Great book, The War of Art, if anybody
Yes.
wants
So
to go
good.
look at it.
Yeah. I actually listen to it like once a year.
It's a great book,
Yeah.
and I think it's good because one of the key points in it that I enjoy is you can almost use resistance as a compass.
Yeah.
Like the more uncomfortable you feel, but something else is emerging, maybe that is actually pointing you more
Yeah.
towards what you could or should
The
do.
breakthrough. Yeah. The
Yeah,
breakdown before the breakthrough
yeah,
in a
yeah.
way. Yeah.
Now that, and so I think we can keep going down this path. I also want to say, though, that there is, as you said, very real potential consequences that happen when you follow that voice and that you
Yes.
pursue those sorts of things. And so don't listen to our episode here and everybody go quit your jobs and be like, but you guys said it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm not paying your mortgage either.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
but I think, so you asked for first step. First step is to take a beat
Yeah.
and to check in with yourself and say, am I intentionally, authentically acknowledging that I am surrendering part of myself right now to be able to continue in the story that I'm doing, which is to work for maybe this company for these people who might not believe these things, who might not do that. That the very first step
Yeah.
is to start to get honest with
That's
yourself
exactly right.
about those things,
That's
and
right.
then to see how much of it is true, how much of it is you're actually just running away from some other obligation. Okay, like whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is,
Yeah.
just get level set with yourself about what is happening and why is it here. Next potential step is, as you evaluate your life, if you need to pay your mortgage, as you said, of
Yeah.
all of those other things, is might there be a small little action, back to the
Mm-hmm.
curiosity and action piece,
Yeah.
might there be a small little thing you could do? Is there a non-for-profit that you could go volunteer for where you can practice this thing? Is there a side thing you could do? Is it a hobby that's trying to get out? Like
Mm-hmm.
what is there friends that you could do this with? Like
Right.
I do talk to quite a few people who are like, I'm ready to jump ship and go be a coach or a consultant or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, a YouTube influencer, right?
Yeah. Right. You're like,
Whatever it
cool.
might be. It's like,
Two
cool,
2 years is a real thing. So prepare yourself.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
So
where some of my
practice it.
innovation
That's
training comes
right.
into play. Like,
Yeah.
so what are the riskiest assumptions in
That's
that?
right.
The
Yeah.
riskiest assumption for most of us in those things, if you're really, and I know we're narrowly talking about like shifting to a different job or different role, but one of the riskiest assumptions is, can you bring in money on that thing?
Yeah.
It's almost rarely the things you want to spend time on, which is, what should the name of the thing be? What would
That's
the
right. The
website look
branding,
like? What colors?
colors.
All those things,
Yeah.
like for most people, aren't the thing that's the riskiest
No.
assumption,
No.
right?
In fact, I would bet that you have sold millions of dollars on a whiteboard without any pretty graphics. Is that true?
100%, Kara. And that is not an
No,
exaggeration.
it's not. Knowing you, I'm like,
We
give Joshua a whiteboard and you will sign away your company. Let's go. Let's do it.
and the thing is, and there's few things that I credit a leader that you and I both know well. But one of the things that I credit him for is he said a website and a brand never sold our services.
Yeah.
And he
It's
was
true.
right in
Yeah.
those ways, in that business and in a lot of what I do. Like, those are complementary things to
That's
what's
right.
needed. They are likely needed for credibility. They're likely all of those sorts of
Mm-hmm.
things,
Kind of. They kind of are. I think it's
but
like an 80-20
relationship.
rule. Like
Yeah,
you're focusing on the wrong, you're focusing on the wrong 80%.
there you go.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're
Mhm.
like 20% of your efforts will produce 80% of your results,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
laser focused. Yeah.
yeah,
It's kind of like when people say, like, what is the one thing I need to do today to move my business forward? Not the things that are like, oh, I also want to make this fun Instagram reel and I want to whatever. It's like, what is the one thing I need to do? I have to send an email and tell people that this option is available for them to purchase should they want to. Like, if I don't do that, no one will buy anything. If I don't at least
yeah.
put the offer out there, for example.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's true. Like even if somebody is like on shaky footing in a relationship, in a job, whatever it might be, like what are the riskiest assumptions, and can you move forward or take a small action in the direction that's closest to your heart
Yeah,
without taking a giant leap of faith? Like that's where it's scary. I truly believe that. That is where people get debilitating fear and they just don't do anything. Because it's like, well, yeah, you're fearful. Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, being that authentic is going to bring about judgment. And oh, by the way, they're freaking judging you anyway. They're just not telling you, and you're giving them a chance to tell you to their face. And that's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but boy, oh Lord, they're doing it anyway. So, like, do at least follow your heart and take a
yeah,
little step. Like you said, talk to a friend or try out your skills at a nonprofit. Or, I mean, for me, it was years. I did years of readings for people on the weekends and sometimes in the evenings from people all over the world before I said, okay, I think I'm ready to like tell people I know that I do this. I was
yeah.
really wanted to practice on strangers for a long time first because it felt a lot safer in my nervous system.
Absolutely. I remember
Yeah.
I can remember sitting at a table at Bagels and Joe on Old Cheney when you told me this. And I'm like, how long have you been doing this? You're like, actually, quite a while.
Yeah, like a few years
How
maybe.
did I
Yeah.
not know this?
Yeah. Well, because I was too scared to tell people. Because, one of my karmic lessons in this life is to uh, not care about what other people think of me. I really have this huge desire to be liked and accepted. And I want people to respond to me and think, oh, she's so great and so nice and so all these things. But the reality is, like, that got in the way of my most authentic self because
Hmm.
I would hide parts of myself in order to make other people feel more safe.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a practice learning how to hold space for myself without with being with still having a heart-centered connection with people and still coming from a really heart-centered place, but yet not doing it at the detriment of my own authenticity.
Yeah. I appreciate how you came back around to it, because I do hear people sometimes say, "Oh, I just need to not care what people think about me," and I would say that is an important part of me, and caring what people think and what they're feeling in a situation is actually one of the things that makes me phenomenal at facilitation and business development and all of
Yeah.
those things, because I can read things and pivot on a dime. One of the things that's helped me over the last couple of years, the therapist that I see is practices internal family systems work.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so the idea of there are multiple parts and voices inside of me, and that people pleaser uh, is a one of those voices, and it has a
Mm-hmm.
place in there. And if I can get to a better spot of being like, oh, that's the people pleaser one. Yep,
Yeah.
that one's speaking. I want those people. Okay, cool. Thank you. What else does the committee have to say?
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
important, because it's but you can only do that, back to the sacred pause, like when you have that pause to be able to say that, and then to your point, like now I can lean into the connection that I might need, or other times I might say like, that voice is a little bit too loud. Like,
Yeah,
let's simmer
that's
down
right.
now. Simmer down
Yeah.
now.
Like, here's a practical example. I was on vacation with my in-laws up in Colorado, and my mother-in-law and I have a great relationship. And she asked me, like, "Oh, I'm going to go drive partway down the mountain to see my friend in Denver. Do you want to come with me?" And my authentic voice said, "Hell no, I do not want to go. I'm on vacation and I don't want to spend a day in the car talking to peeps I don't know that well. Like, I really don't want to do that." And then, the people pleaser in me was like, she's probably wants company, and she like wants us to spend time together. And I literally, like, in the span of 5 seconds, had this war inside of my head of what
Mhm.
I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I finally got to a place where I just, like, I said, I think I would rather stay back. Like, I think I'd rather stay back and read my book, but if you really want me to come with you, I will, but I would rather stay. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I found a way to stick up for myself but also be kind. I
Yep.
think sometimes when we are learning, we got our training wheels on and we're learning how to hold space for ourselves, we kind of are a little messy when we do
I
it.
think so too. How
Yeah.
did she respond?
Oh, okay. Yeah, she was fine. She
Cool.
goes, "I thought you might want to stay back." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great. I do."
I've been in those scenarios, and they'll say, "Oh, I was just offering to be nice. Like I
Oh,
didn't
and you're like,
actually."
"Oh, well, great. I was going to accept to be nice, and neither of us actually want to ride in a car together
Exactly.
today. Hallelujah." Okay, I want to pivot a little in our last bit of time that we have left and talk about your TED Talk. So you had a TEDx talk that got selected. What made you want to do it, and what made you pick the topic? And then we'll get into this topic around how words shape AI and our intentions, and what
Yep.
we feed AI, for example.
Yep. So in my mind, I've been doing more keynotes over the
Yeah,
years,
and you're
and
phenomenal. By the way, if anyone needs a
thank you.
keynote speaker, reach out to Joshua Berry. He will not disappoint you. You
I,
are phenomenal.
thank you, Kara.
You're welcome.
I have been doing more, and in my mind, doing a TED Talk has always been like the next level thing that some
Yeah.
people do. So that was one reason. A second reason is at the end of 2023, I set an intention for myself that I wanted to do different types of speaking, because most of
Mm,
my keynotes are very configured to the audience, what
sure.
they need, etc.
Yeah,
And I said I'd like to
exactly.
do some more disciplined, scripted speaking.
Yeah.
And so, how that manifested in 2024 was I got selected for the Nebraska Storytelling
Yeah. That was
Festival,
fantastic
which
too.
was a very like scripted like approach to telling a story on stage. And then I also got selected for this TED Talk. And how I chose the topic was similar to book or similar to those other things. Like this idea started to bubble up in me of an idea that is very core to some of my beliefs, and that is around bringing greater humanity and dignity to the
Yeah.
workplace.
Yeah.
But there was this interesting twist of AI that I was seeing out there in the world, and I saw a way to be able to combine those into what became a really intriguing topic.
So talk about it a little bit. Like, I'll put the link to the TED Talk in our show notes so that people can go listen to it. It's absolutely worth the, I don't know, 14 or
14
20,
minutes.
or
Yeah.
yeah, 14
Yeah.
minutes that it is. Um, but talk a little bit about this idea of what we feed AI, or how we trust
Sure.
it as like the ultimate truth. I and then I want to maybe talk about how that might also play into collective consciousness, like what
Sure.
energy we're feeding the world, for example.
Yep. So I'm. This is going to be overly reductive and simplified, but in essence, the current ways that we access large language models or AI.
Yeah.
So this I'm
Yeah.
talking about Chat
Yep.
GPT
That's
and
right.
Copilot and Google Gemini and all of those sorts of things have been trained on immense amounts of data.
Yeah.
And so the data that it's trained on is what it uses to be able to predict
That's
the
its truth,
response
its
it
source.
should feed back to you. So,
Right.
so in that entire mix is its truth. And therefore, it's been proven that sometimes if the training data is full of stereotypes or biases or incorrect information, it could reproduce or reperpetuate some of those things in its responses. And what that means is there have been now thousands of research studies that have shown out there that have basically said, like, we need to be even more careful
Yeah.
about not only the data that we feed into these models, but also the rules and other things that we use for how it parses out what's important or not important
Right.
to the data. And so, if my play on it in the talk, as you'll hear, is that in the past, like, we often use words very unintentionally and unconsciously
Sure.
in the workplace, and in life in general. But with AI, we're actually giving a new life to those words. And maybe this is where you're going with the consciousness. We're creating new energy and words into the world that are a perpetuation of past ideas that we unconsciously were working with.
That's
And
right.
so that's what we need to be even more aware of.
Yeah, it made me think, like, because I'm always like taking the spiritual take on things just based on what I do for a living. And as I listened to your talk, I was thinking, like, it's a like collective energy, right? And if we all just follow along in a way of thinking because that's what we're told to think, versus if we're saying, like, how can I be my most meaningful self? Like, what is the expression of love that can come out of me, and how do I perpetuate that energy out into the world instead of
Yeah.
just choosing to be herded like a cattle to a direction because the world or our culture or societal norms tell us go left. It's like
Yeah.
some of the most profound ideas came when people said, there's a little voice inside me that says go right, or maybe that's just not quite right, or maybe there's a different point of view. And the more that people trust that and move in that way, I think it collectively changes the frequency of the planet. And that's what I thought about when you were talking about words and training words into AI. I was thinking about our thoughts and our feelings and the energy that it shifts, the way our thoughts and feelings affect other people and affect the energy of the planet, and how we have to be responsible for our own thoughts and feelings and the impact that they have on others.
Yeah. I think that absolutely resonates with the talk. The concrete example, and really one of the sparks for the talk, was thinking about the language we use in sales and marketing.
Yeah,
And you and
that
I both
resonated
been
with
in
me, by the
sales.
way. Leads,
But
prospecting into the
I used
funnel.
to lead teams. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about targeting people and prospecting
Yeah.
people and their leads. And I remember one time several years ago when I was listening to someone talk about this, and they were specifically talking about how to scrape private information from the internet to be able to sell to people, to do a better job of targeting people for the, like, I
You're like,
started thinking, like,
that
that
don't feel
is
good.
gross. Like,
That
that is
feels icky.
yucky.
Yeah.
And the fact is like all the words that were baked into that um, treated people as objects and
Yeah.
treated people as inhuman. And so I started to think about, like, what would the words be if you had to intentionally think about helping someone buy something, right? You'd
Hmm.
want it to be something that would be good for them.
That's
You'd
right.
want them to, like, you wouldn't target them like you would a firearm, and you wouldn't prospect them like you would a gold mine, right?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't. There's all of these words that I think unconsciously perpetuate some beliefs, and then I carried it into the workplace because there's plenty of words there,
Yes.
etc.
Right sizing,
Yep.
etc. Yeah. Well, I thought it was really thought provoking.
Thank you.
Like it was entertaining, yes, but it really did make me pause and go, words are powerful. The words we tell ourselves, the words we tell each other, the words we tell our children.
Hmm.
And I always tell people, like, when I think about our energy sources in our bodies and our chakras, I can't tell you how many times this comes out for my clients where I will express to them, what is the most heart centered way to speak your truth? And if something gives you the EBGBs, that's probably worth looking into. Like, why is
Mm,
this making me uncomfortable? What about this feels wrong in my body? Why is this not regulating in my nervous system?
yeah.
Because it's there, it's a cue. It's cueing you. And I think it's your inner voice, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. There's a cue within you that's saying something isn't quite right. And that's where I want people. That's kind of what I took from your talk too. Like, if you don't ever listen to those little moments, that's how we end up with people like Hitler that can do what he can do. It's like you have to have some level of responsibility for what you allow, what thoughts, feelings, etc. you allow into your energetic field.
Yeah, I that's well said. It reminds me the beginning of the book of John in the Bible of the Word made flesh. The word was logos, right? Like words, reason, like made flesh. And I think about that word when I think of the word dialogue, which is dialogos, right? Like through words.
Yeah.
Like we are creating so much of our reality through our words,
Yeah.
and changing our perceptions and what we believe to be true or not true, etc. And so same thing with the words that we're telling ourselves. So words have immense power, immense
Yeah.
power.
So I think just be your own litmus test, and have a healthy amount of discernment, and
Mhm.
take a sacred pause, and hopefully in that pause some wisdom will come forward for you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kara.
Okay, I am going to do a little rapid fire. I do this with all of my guests. I know you're nervous, but don't worry, it's okay. um, I just like to get to know people, and I like to do it at the end, so that's just how I roll. um, what is one of your favorite foods, or what is a food that you really love? You're like, oh my gosh, I love this meal, I love this food, even if I don't eat it all the time.
Yep. So I love good cheeses,
Nice.
and also lately, like bread. I love really good bread.
Like really good bread. Do you ever
I
go
got
to Le
really good
Cordier, a French
sourdough bread.
bakery? Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you ever
yeah.
go there?
Oh yeah,
Do you ever?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's good.
Phenomenal.
For all your Lincoln peeps, go to Le Cordier French Bakery. So good. My daughter's celiac, and my friend is a professional baker, and so I'm going to learn how to make gluten-free sourdough bread. That's my
That's
next.
cool.
That's my next creative endeavor that I'm going to do. Okay, where is the next place you'd like to travel? And if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit, like about your philosophy around travel, because your family is so it's so amazing what you do with your family and the way that you all travel the world. I'm curious, are there some votes for what's next?
Yeah, there are some votes. So real briefly, we have 4 kids.
That feels like
After
40 to me, in case you're
after
wondering.
April, there'll be 11, 13, 15, and 17. And for the last 10 years, we have taken non-American vacations, we'll call them,
Yeah.
typically 2, 3, 4 week vacations during the summer. And as
Yes,
they've
you heard
gotten
that right.
older,
2 to 4 weeks.
yes.
Correct. Yes. Love it.
And and as they've gotten older, they get to help plan and decide and do it. And we even have um, some things built in at different age milestones where they are 100% in charge of the
Yes.
planning, the booking, the everything. So I have some
Yeah.
blog posts
Love
on it
that.
if anybody's
Yes.
interested.
I
But
love that.
next places to go to, we just booked a trip out to North Carolina. So this is a domestic year.
Do you do
The
every
last,
other year, right?
yeah, we do every. So last year was Iceland and Italy. Probably one of our most fun stories was the year that we took a month and just lived in a small little Spanish village. And yeah, that was a blast too.
Yeah. Especially Spanish speakers. Okay. So what's next? What are the places you guys are considering?
So North Carolina will be this June. I would like to do something in Asia with the kids, especially before our oldest leaves the house. And
Yeah.
so that could look like Thailand or Vietnam or somewhere.
I was just talking with my in-laws about how we should all go to Thailand with Zara. So that might be our next adventure as well. So what is your favorite holiday?
I don't
You're
have
like,
one.
you don't have one.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't have one.
Love it. Um, what is your favorite thing about what you do for a living?
Mm. Getting to create spaces for people to question what if and
Mm.
have a safe space to be able to practice what they need to grow themselves.
Yeah. What if is one of my favorite questions, because most people take it one way, and I say, like, what if? What if all your dreams come true? What if
Mm.
everything works out extraordinarily well? What if it all is meant to be, you know? So I love that. My very last question: what brings you profound joy?
What brings me profound joy is the growth and the learning and the struggle that I see in other people. And when they come back to me and say, wow, I would have never thought that I could
Mm.
have, or this was possible, or did you see this? Or what was coming to mind was a week ago, I ran into someone that, quite honestly, I struggled to remember her name. We had a couple interactions a year prior, and that was it. And she came up to me and was crying and said, after our conversation and the email that you shared with me afterwards, it sparked a whole year of growth and spiritual
Mm.
transformation for me. And I would
Wow.
not be in the space that I would be if it wasn't for you taking the time to do that. And so, of
Yeah.
course, like the part of me inside was like, what did I say in this email? Like,
Yeah.
what?
What did,
I don't
do you got
remember.
it? Do you still have it? Send it to me.
I went and found it. I went
Oh,
and
did
found
you?
it. And so here's my takeaway from it. Maybe this is a good end. I take a lot of calls from entrepreneurs and people wanting to go out on their own. And I just love helping people in transitions. And she had some ideas and was kind of all over the place. And part of what I was feeling by the end of the call was like, there was a voice inside of me that was just like, I don't think she's being authentic to what she
Mm.
actually wants to do.
Yeah,
And so
sure.
my email afterwards, as she said, ooh, could you make these introductions to this person, this person, this person? And my helper would have been like, yeah, okay, sure. But my email back was about Howard Thurman's Sound of the Genuine, a
Mm.
quote. And that idea that if we don't listen to that still small voice inside of us, that is the sound of the genuine, we will forever live our lives at the end of the strings that someone else is pulling.
Yeah. Isn't that the
And
truth?
that's what I shared with her.
Yeah.
And she never replied. And so I probably that's why I completely forgotten about it. But it was me leaning into my truth that helped her see more of her truth and what was
Yeah.
next. And that
And
brings me immense joy.
isn't that kind of how it goes? Like the more courageous you are, you may very well have a ripple effect that you never even knew because you lived into that courage and the ripple effect it has on others. And there's certain people that have had profound impact on me that I have had minimal interaction with.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of how it goes. You never know when the teacher or the student shows up, and usually it's
Yeah.
both.
The poster that's on my wall is of the Marianne Williamson quote.
Oh yeah.
The bottom of it is and as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
That is my most watched reel, the lengthier version of that quote.
Yeah.
Yep, sure is.
Cool.
Because she's pretty brilliant. Well, thank you, Joshua. I really appreciate it. We'll drop in the show notes ways that people can work with you if they want to book you for a speaking engagement, purchase your book. How do you want people to connect with you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm most active on LinkedIn, and you can just search for Joshua Berry on LinkedIn and you'll find it. Or they can send me an email. We can drop that in there too, but it's joshua@econic.co. That's just .co, not
.co,
.com.
because he's modern like that.
No, it's because the M was going to cost us $39,964, and so
Exactly.
we
You're
paid
like, no, thank you.
the smaller amount for .co.
I know when I was trying to figure out what to name my company, well, I was given the name by my guide's like, well, that's never going to be available. And karmicleader.com was like $3. I'm like, done and done. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joshua. It was such a pleasure to have you. It really means a lot to me that you came on, and hopefully this is a meaningful episode for our listeners too.
Oh, I know. I took away some great things too, Kara. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend.
Cheers.